a missed opportunity, a continuation of the story we never got, a different take on the character, a scrapped trilogy from a previous idea about the character, may all be pointers as to everything that has been going around the character behind the scenes, all hints towards a possible Man of Steel sequel, which we may never get as things stand right now. However, with Henry Cavill still not ready to give up the mantle, it might be the last drop of hope we have left for the character. One of the biggest questions when the DCEU is taken into consideration is definitely the question about the Man of Steel sequel. That has not happened so far. Over the last couple of years, there have been a lot of talks about the sequel and whether it is or it won't happen. The first movie in what would become the DC Snyderverse was a solid performer at the box office, grossing over $668 million worldwide. So there is no problem about the budget side of things. So what is happening with the sequel? The movie proved to be divisive at the least, with many fans neglecting the darker tone Zack Snyder set for the character, with the movie itself criticized for the excessive levels of mayhem. After the first outing, we were able to see Cavill's Superman return for Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice and in the Justice League, with both movies still not managing to satisfy the fans to the fullest for different various reasons.
You just have to decide what kind of man you want to grow up to be, Clark.
And because of the history the character has by now, the fans are left wondering if the Snyder Cut marked the last actual outing of the character and the last time we will see Cavill in the role of Superman. There were rumors of a Man of Steel sequel over the last couple of years, with the two most notable mentions being that of Story being produced by J.J. Abrams and others claiming that Henry Cavill himself is already in talks to return for the movie. Yes, Cavill on many occasions has said that he is still not ready to give up the role, but we think that he has the least to say in things, with his biggest supporters being the writer of the first Man of Steel movie, David Goyer, who also thinks that a sequel still could happen with Cavill in the lead role, who also added that he is, as of yet, still not in a position to say anything about the project that has been talked about for so long, as he is currently far away from the sequel, and that he knows nothing more than the average fan of where things stand right now regarding the DCEU plans for the character. Now yes, Goyer may not have the insight into things as to whether the movie could happen, but he sounds very optimistic, which is a good thing coming from a person who is deeply plugged into Warner Bros. DC plans at one point, a person who is also something of a specialist of penning comic book adaptations. One of the most arguable things in the modern day age is that no one can make a good Superman movie, especially given the simplistic nature of the character. The darker tone of the character for the most part did not work. So it is fair to say that today's more serious-minded comic book audiences would like a much closer resemblance of the character to Richard Donner's lighthearted 1987 movie. Whatever the case may be, we think that it is going to be a bit longer until anything concrete comes forward about the movie, no matter the case of whether it will or will not happen in the near or distant future. And in order to understand more about what is happening with the sequel, we will dive deeper as to what have been the ideas behind it in the first place, and what could have become of the sequel if it was ever confirmed of happening. And without further ado, let's dive right in.
What's the S stand for?
It's not an S. On my world, it means hope.
One of the biggest supporters for the Man of Steel sequel can be seen in the likes of Matthew Vaughn, the Kingsman director, who said that his take on the sequel would like in his earlier scrapped Superman trilogy, a trilogy he pitched to Warner Bros. Way back in 2008, a time when the studio decided to go with David Goyer's screenplay instead, with Zack Snyder being hired to direct and later become the original architect of the DCEU. Before getting into the superhero genre, Vaughn was in the driving seat of many British gangster movies, including the likes of Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels and Snatch, and with Kick-Ass, the adaptation of Miller's graphic novel, being his first child in the superhero genre, one of the biggest shifts in his career up until now, which would then go on to make him the director of X-Men First Class. In 2017, Vaughn came in talks for the Superman sequel. However, the movie itself was quickly disbanded, with it put out of development until this day. Speaking to Polygon during the press tour for Elton John biopic Rocket Man, which Vaughn produced, he was also in a good mood to share some of his ideas for the Superman sequel. Ideas that he took straight from Miller's original proposed Superman trilogy, with him describing the whole thing as an uplifting and hopeful approach to the character, with the trilogy itself changing Superman's origin story and setting him to become all grown up on Krypton instead of the Earth. The first movie mostly set on Krypton and focused on Superman's father, Jor-El, as he tried to prevent the ultimate destruction of the planet, with it eventually happening, a chain of events which would lead Superman to come to Earth in a later stage in his life and posed with a different dilemma: his newfound loyalty torn between two planets, his home, and his present residence among the human race. To Henry Cavill's courtesy, we were able to have a little more insight on his take on the sequel and where would the character's story go. To start things off, Cavill said that in order for the continuation of Kal-El's story, he would eventually need to kill Zod, the Kryptonian villain, a choice made at the moment, something he would never do again in the future. And this would have been a decision that Superman would not take lightly, as it is not just another killing, it is a murder on the last remaining member of his species, which would go on to let Superman have growth after that, with the sequel exploring more about the psyche of Superman as a deep and seemingly invulnerable godlike being, but with real feelings. The feelings we all have in ourselves, on the inside. And if it wasn't clear by now, Man of Steel 2 is a movie that Henry Cavill wants to make, as according to him, there is a lot of storytelling and a much deeper exploration of the character, who said that if it was ever up to him, he would not let an opportunity like that go south. So the question is, will Henry ever get the chance to put his stamp on things and don the red cape at least one more time before he gives it up to the next generation? Remains to be seen. In today's world, with almost a decade after the release of Man of Steel, it can be tough to remember how controversial Superman's killings of Zod was, especially judging by the fact that many of the crew members who worked on the movie, including director Zack Snyder and co-writer and producer Christopher Nolan, were all not entirely sure if he should have done that, with both of them not agreeing to the fact, but still going for it, all in hope that a sequel following that movie would deliberately reflect upon the actions Kal-El made on that day. On a related note, tell us down in the comments below, what are your thoughts on a Man of Steel sequel? Do you see a world in which we might get probably one of the most long-awaited movies come to life? And depending on your answer, feel free to share your reason for the side you are leaning towards. And according to you, what do you think is the biggest reason as to why the sequel has not seen the light just yet? But also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon if you would like to see more videos like this in the future. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.